My name is Sarah Mitchell, and 24 hours before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, my entire world shattered. They say you never really know someone until you catch them at their worst. I found out the hard way that the man I loved and my best friend since college had been living a double life right under my nose. This is the story of how one night changed everything, and how I found the strength to do what I never thought I'd be capable of. Let me take you back to where it all began. My fiancé, Marcus Henderson, was everything I'd ever wanted in a partner. Or so I thought. We met 5 years ago at a charity gala in downtown Chicago. He was charming, successful, and had this way of making me feel like I was the only person in the room. 6 months of dating turned into a year. A year turned into 3. And then, on a beach in Maui, he got down on one knee and asked me to be his wife. I said yes, without hesitation. My bridesmaid, Natalie Brooks, had been my best friend since our sophomore year at Northwestern. We'd been through everything together. Bad breakups, career changes, family drama. She was the first person I called when Marcus proposed. She screamed so loud on the phone that I had to pull it away from my ear. She cried happy tears. She told me she couldn't wait to stand by my side on the biggest day of my life. What I didn't know was that she'd been standing beside Marcus in ways I never imagined. The wedding was set for October 14th at the Langham Hotel. We'd spent 18 months planning every single detail. The flowers were going to be white peonies and garden roses. The cake was a 5-tier masterpiece. We'd invited 230 guests. My dress had been custom made in Italy, and it was absolutely perfect. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for the night before the wedding. Everything was falling into place exactly as we'd planned. My mom was flying in from Seattle. Marcus's parents drove up from Springfield. The bridesmaids were all staying at the hotel together, and the groomsmen had rented a house nearby for their last night of freedom. Or at least, that's what Marcus told me. Friday night arrived, and I was running on pure adrenaline and champagne. The rehearsal had gone perfectly. Everyone knew where to stand, when to walk, what to do. At the dinner afterward, Marcus gave this beautiful speech about how lucky he was to have found me. He talked about our future, our dreams, the family we'd build together. My dad cried. My mom grabbed my hand and squeezed it so tight. Natalie sat right across from me, wearing this gorgeous emerald dress. She raised her glass during Marcus's speech and smiled at me with tears in her eyes. She told everyone that I was the best friend she'd ever had, and that Marcus was the luckiest man alive. I believed every word. After dinner, Marcus kissed me goodnight around 11. He said he was going to head back to the groomsmen's house for a few drinks and some pool. Traditional stuff. The bride and groom weren't supposed to see each other until the ceremony anyway. It was bad luck, or whatever. I didn't think twice about it. The bridesmaids and I went back to our suite at the Langham. We had this beautiful 2-bedroom suite with a living room area. We'd planned to have one last girls' night, watching rom-coms and drinking wine. But around midnight, Natalie said she wasn't feeling well. She complained about a headache and said the champagne must have gotten to her. She wanted to go back to her own room to lie down. Looking back now, I can see how calculated it all was. My other bridesmaids, Jessica and Amanda, fell asleep around 1 in the morning. I tried to sleep too, but I was too excited, too anxious, too everything. My mind was racing with thoughts about the ceremony, about becoming Mrs. Sarah Henderson, about starting this new chapter of my life. Around 2 a.m., I realized I'd left my something blue at Marcus's apartment. It was my grandmother's bracelet, and I absolutely needed it for the wedding. It had been in my family for 3 generations. My mom would be devastated if I didn't wear it. I decided to drive to Marcus's place and grab it. He wasn't going to be there anyway. He'd be at the groomsmen's house across town. I had my own key. It would take 20 minutes. And I'd be back before anyone even noticed I was gone. I got dressed in yoga pants and a hoodie. I grabbed my keys and drove through the empty Chicago streets. The city looked different at that hour. Quieter, almost peaceful. I remember thinking about how this was one of my last nights as Sarah Mitchell. Tomorrow, I'd be someone new. I parked in Marcus's building garage and took the elevator up to the 8th floor. His apartment was at the end of the hallway. Unit 812. I put my key in the lock as quietly as possible. I didn't want to wake his neighbors. I pushed open the door. And that's when I heard it. At first, I thought maybe he'd left the TV on. But then I heard the sounds more clearly. A woman's voice. Laughing. Then, moaning. My stomach dropped so fast I thought I might be sick right there in the entryway. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to leave, to walk away, to pretend I'd never heard anything. But my feet kept moving forward like they belonged to someone else. The sounds were coming from his bedroom. The door was halfway open. There was candlelight flickering inside. And I could smell perfume. Something floral and expensive. Something familiar. I pushed the door open completely. Marcus was in his bed. Our bed. The bed where we'd planned our future. Where he'd proposed to me a second time just for fun. Where we'd spent countless mornings drinking coffee and reading the newspaper together. And he wasn't alone. Natalie was with him, my fiancé, and my best friend, tangled up in sheets that I'd picked out in the apartment where I'd spent nearly every weekend for the past 2 years. Less than 12 hours before I was supposed to marry him, time stopped. The world stopped spinning. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just stood there in the doorway, frozen, watching the two people I loved most in the world betray me in the worst possible way. It took them a few seconds to notice me. When Marcus finally looked up and saw me standing there, his face went completely white. Natalie screamed. She actually screamed and tried to cover herself with the blanket. Like modesty mattered now. Like anything mattered now. Marcus jumped out of bed. He was saying my name over and over. Sarah. Sarah, please, Sarah, let me explain. But what explanation could there possibly be? What words could make this okay? Natalie was crying. She was saying she was sorry. That she didn't mean for it to happen. That it was a mistake. A mistake. Like she'd accidentally spilled wine on my dress or forgotten my birthday. Not like she'd been sleeping with my fiancé. I finally found my voice. It didn't even sound like me. It was cold and sharp and empty. How long? Marcus tried to reach for me. I stepped back so fast I almost fell. Sarah, please. It's not what you think. How long? Natalie pulled the sheet around herself and stood up. Her makeup was smeared. Her hair was a mess. She looked nothing like the polished, perfect friend I'd known for 8 years. It just happened tonight. Sarah. We were both drinking after the rehearsal, and things got out of hand. And don't lie to me. I don't know how I knew she was lying. Maybe it was intuition. Maybe it was the way her eyes shifted to Marcus before she answered. Maybe it was just that everything suddenly made horrible, perfect sense. Tell me the truth, or I swear to God, Natalie, I will make tomorrow the worst day of your life. Marcus sat down on the edge of the bed. He put his head in his hands. When he looked up at me, I saw something I'd never seen before. Guilt. Real, genuine, soul-crushing guilt. 6 months, he whispered. 6 months. Half a year. While I was picking out centerpieces and choosing between salmon or chicken for the reception. While I was addressing 230 invitations by hand. While I was planning a future with a man who was actively destroying it. Since April? My voice cracked. April was when I'd thrown Natalie, a surprise birthday party at my apartment. When the three of us had gone to Napa Valley for a wine tasting weekend. When Marcus had convinced me to give Natalie a key to our apartment so she could water our plants while we were on a business trip. Natalie was sobbing now. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. It just happened, and then it kept happening. And I didn't know how to stop it. You didn't know how to stop sleeping with my fiancé? I laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. Did you ever think about just not doing it? Did that ever cross your mind? Either of you? Marcus stood up and tried to approach me again. Sarah, I love you. I do. This thing with Natalie, it's just physical. It doesn't mean anything. We can get past this. We can go to counseling. We can get out. What? Both of you. Get out of this apartment right now. Marcus, you have 5 minutes to throw some clothes on and leave. Natalie, I never want to see you again. Not tomorrow. Not ever. If you come anywhere near that wedding, I will have security remove you. Natalie grabbed her dress from the floor. She was still crying. Still trying to apologize. Sarah, please. You're my best friend. We can work through this. Please don't do this. I said get out. They left, both of them. Marcus tried to say something else on his way out, but I slammed the door in his face. And then I was alone in that apartment, surrounded by all the pieces of my life that I'd so carefully built, watching them crumble into nothing. I don't remember driving back to the hotel. I don't remember taking the elevator up to my suite. I just remember walking in at 3:30 in the morning and seeing Jessica asleep on the couch. I woke her up. I told her everything. She didn't believe me at first. How could she? It sounded insane. But then I showed her the text messages that were already coming through on my phone. Marcus had sent 47 messages. In the 30 minutes since I'd left, Natalie had sent 32. They were both begging, pleading, explaining, justifying. Jessica made me tea. She called Amanda and woke her up. We sat in that hotel suite while the sun started to rise over Chicago. And we made a plan. The wedding was supposed to start at 4 p.m. We had 12 hours to cancel everything. Jessica called the venue. Amanda started texting guests. I called my parents and told them what happened. My mom got on the first flight out. My dad said he was going to kill Marcus. And I believed him. By 8 in the morning, we'd canceled the venue, the caterers, the photographer, the DJ, the flowers. We'd notified all 230 guests. We'd stopped the cake from being delivered. We'd done everything except deal with the dress, which was hanging in the closet of the suite, still in its protective bag, still perfect and white and completely useless now. Marcus showed up at the hotel around 9. Jessica and Amanda blocked him from getting to our suite. He was begging them to let him talk to me. He was saying it was all a huge misunderstanding. That Natalie had come on to him. That he'd made a terrible mistake. That he loved me. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to see him. I just wanted him gone. My dad arrived at the hotel around 10. He'd driven straight from the airport. When he saw Marcus in the lobby, still trying to get upstairs, I heard the shouting from 8 floors up. Hotel security had to separate them. Marcus finally left, but not before he'd caused enough of a scene that the front desk asked if we needed them to call the police. The hardest part wasn't canceling everything. It wasn't dealing with the logistics or the embarrassment or even the heartbreak. The hardest part was sitting in that hotel suite, still in my pajamas at noon on what was supposed to be my wedding day, and realizing that I'd spent 5 years of my life loving someone who didn't exist. The Marcus I thought I knew would never have done this. The Natalie I thought I knew would never have done this. But they did, which meant I never really knew them at all. My mom arrived. In the early afternoon. She held me while I cried. She didn't say much. She didn't need to. Sometimes mothers just know when words won't help. When all you can do is be present while your daughter's heart breaks into a million pieces. The days after were a blur. I moved out of Marcus's apartment and back in with my parents temporarily. I blocked both Marcus and Natalie on everything. Phone, social media, email, everything. I didn't want to hear their excuses or their apologies. Nothing they could say would change what they'd done. The gossip spread fast. In a city like Chicago, where everyone knows everyone, you can't keep something like this quiet. People took sides. Some mutual friends defended Marcus, saying everyone makes mistakes. Those people are no longer in my life. Real friends, true friends, stood by me without question. Jessica and Amanda never left my side. They helped me pack up my things from Marcus's place while he was at work. They sorted through gifts that had already arrived and helped me return them. They sat with me on the nights when I couldn't sleep, when all I could think about was how close I'd come to marrying someone who would have destroyed me from the inside out. 2 weeks after the wedding that never happened, I got a letter from Natalie. It was 8 pages long, handwritten, full of apologies and explanations and justifications. She said she'd been jealous of me for years, that she'd always felt like she was in my shadow, that when Marcus showed interest in her, it felt good to finally be chosen over me. I burned the letter. I didn't need her explanations. Her jealousy wasn't my problem, and her betrayal wasn't something I had to forgive just because she was sorry about it. Marcus tried to contact me through mutual friends. He sent flowers to my parents' house. He even showed up at my office once, but security escorted him out. He wanted closure. He wanted to explain himself. He wanted me to understand his side of the story. But here's what I understood. He'd had 6 months to tell me the truth. He'd had 6 months to choose me over Natalie, to end the affair, to come clean. Instead, he'd let me plan a wedding. He'd let me spend thousands of dollars. He'd let me tell everyone we knew that I was going to spend the rest of my life with him. He'd looked me in the eye every single day and lied. That's not love. That's not even close to love. 3 months later, I found out through mutual friends that Marcus and Natalie were dating officially. They'd posted pictures together on social media. They looked happy. And you know what? It didn't hurt the way I thought it would. Because I realized something important. They deserved each other. 2 people who could lie and cheat and betray someone they claimed to love. They were perfect together. I started therapy. Not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand how I'd missed the signs. My therapist helped me see that I didn't miss anything. Liars are good at lying. That's what makes them liars. There was nothing I could have done differently, no way I could have known. No signs I should have caught. They'd made their choices, and those choices had nothing to do with my worth or my value as a person. Slowly, I started to rebuild. I threw myself into my career. I made new friends. I traveled to places I'd always wanted to go but never had time for, because I was too busy planning a future with someone else. I went to Paris. I saw the northern lights in Iceland. I spent a month in Bali just existing, without any plans or expectations. And somewhere along the way, I stopped being the girl whose fiancé cheated on her the night before her wedding. I became Sarah again. Just Sarah. The person I'd been before Marcus, before Natalie, before all of it. It's been a year now since that night. A full year since my world fell apart in the worst possible way. And I'm not going to lie and say everything is perfect now. Because it's not. There are still days when I wonder if I'll ever be able to trust anyone again. There are still nights when I wake up and remember walking into that bedroom and seeing them together. But here's what I know now that I didn't know then. That night saved my life. If I hadn't forgotten my grandmother's bracelet. If I hadn't driven to Marcus's apartment. If I hadn't walked in on them. I would have married him. I would have said vows in front of everyone I love, promising forever to a man who was already breaking those promises. And maybe I would have found out eventually. Or maybe I never would have. Maybe I would have spent years, decades, wondering why something felt off. Why he was distant, why I always felt like I was competing for his attention. Instead, I found out exactly who he was. Before I legally tied myself to him. Before we bought a house together. Before we had kids. Before I gave him even more of my life than I already had. The night before my wedding was supposed to be the beginning of my happily ever after. Instead, it was the end of the biggest lie I'd ever been told. And as much as it hurt, as devastating as it was, I'm grateful. I'm grateful I found out when I did. I'm grateful I had the strength to walk away. I'm grateful I didn't let him explain it away or convince me to give him another chance. Because I deserved better than Marcus Henderson. I deserved better than Natalie Brooks. And now I know that with absolute certainty. To anyone watching this who's been betrayed, who's been lied to, who's had their heart broken by someone they thought they knew, you will survive this. It doesn't feel like it right now. It feels like the end of everything. But it's not. It's actually the beginning. The beginning of you finding out who you really are when you are not trying to be someone's perfect partner or someone's best friend. You're stronger than you think. You're worth more than how they treated you. And someday, probably sooner than you expect, you'll look back on this moment and realize it was the best thing that ever happened to you.